Far hidden beneath the misty mountains, protected by rivers, pine forests, and ancient wisdom, there lies a valley where the world seems to breathe more slowly. A place of warm lanterns glowing beneath carved wooden halls. A place where waterfalls sing softly through the night, while elven voices drift like distant music beneath the stars. A place where weary travelers finally rest. Tonight, we spend a quiet evening in Rivendell. So if you enjoy these slow, peaceful journeys through the cozier corners of Middle-earth, feel free to like the video, perhaps leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now settle comfortably beneath your blankets. Lower the lanterns and let us wander softly into the hidden valley of Imladris while evening settles across the mountains. The last sunlight fades slowly across Rivendell. Golden light lingers upon the upper cliffs, while shadows gather gently beneath the pine forests surrounding the valley. Far below the mountain paths, waterfalls shimmer silver beside narrow stone bridges. The river Bruine flows endlessly through the hidden refuge with soft rushing music against smooth rocks. And scattered across the valley, lanterns begin glowing one by one beneath carved balconies and arched windows. Warm lights beneath the coming night. Rivendell always feels quieter at dusk. The daytime rhythms slowly soften. Books close within long libraries. The ringing of distant smithwork fades. Travelers return from woodland paths while the scent of supper drifts warmly through open halls. An elf carrying folded blankets crosses one of the stone bridges above the river. His footsteps barely sound against the smooth stones. Nearby, several younger elves gather baskets of late autumn herbs from gardens growing beside the terraces. Lavender, rosemary, mint still fragrant despite the cooling mountain air. Everything in Rivendell feels carefully tended, not hurried, not crowded, simply cared for with long, patient attention. At the center of the valley rises the last homely house. Wide halls of carved wood and pale stone, nestled among waterfalls, birch trees, and climbing ivy glowing faint gold beneath lantern light. Open windows spill warmth into the cool evening. Music drifts softly through portions of the house already. A harp somewhere, perhaps a flute. The gentle sounds blend with the endless murmur of water flowing through the valley. Within one of the western halls, a small fire crackles steadily beneath polished beams, darkened slightly by centuries of smoke and winter evenings. Several travelers rest there after long, difficult roads through the mountains, their cloaks dry beside the hearth, boots lined neatly against the wall. One elderly dwarf sleeps deeply in a heavy chair, while a half-finished cup of tea cools forgotten beside him. Nearby, a hobbit quietly turns pages within a thick red book, while occasionally glancing toward the rain, beginning far beyond the windows. Rivendell has a way of making tired people feel safe enough to grow sleepy. Perhaps it is the warmth, or the music, or simply the strange, peaceful feeling carried through the valley itself. Outside, evening deepens further. The mountain air grows colder. Thin mist rises beside the waterfalls, while stars slowly emerge above the dark ridges of the misty mountains. An elven servant enters the hall, carrying a tray of fresh bread, warm berry preserves, and steaming herbal tea. The smell spreads instantly through the room. Warm grain, honey, fresh mint. One traveler smiles faintly without even opening his eyes fully. Small comforts feel richer in Rivendell somehow. Not extravagant, simply thoughtful. The elf places another log upon the fire before quietly departing once more. The flames brighten softly across the room. Orange light flickers against shelves lined with books, maps, and old instruments resting peacefully in the corners. The hobbit eventually closes his book and wanders toward the nearest open balcony overlooking the valley. Cool evening air drifts inward, carrying the scent of pine forests and river water. Below, Rivendell glows gently beneath the growing night. Lanterns sway beneath carved archways. Stone paths wind beside gardens silvered by moonlight. Farther away, songs drift faintly from another hall where elves gather quietly after supper. No loud celebrations. Calm music flowing through the hidden valley. The hobbit leans against the smooth railing listening. There is something deeply comforting about Rivendell at night. The world beyond the valley may remain uncertain. Storms, dark forests, long, dangerous roads. But here, beneath the mountains, peace still survives. An older elf soon joins him upon the balcony, carrying another lantern. Its soft golden glow spreads warmly against the carved stone. "You seem rested," the elf says gently. The hobbit nods. "I think I could sleep for a year here." The elf smiles faintly. Many travelers feel that way. Below them, the river continues singing through the valley. Stars brighten slowly overhead. And somewhere deeper within Rivendell, soft elven voices rise, gently through the evening, like distant water flowing through ancient halls. The night has only just begun in the last homely house. And already the hidden valley feels wonderfully far away from the worries of the wider world. Night settles gently across Rivendell. The final traces of sunset fade beyond the mountain ridges, while silver starlight spreads slowly above the hidden valley. Lanterns glow warmly beneath carved archways and wooden balconies overlooking the river Brewine. Their reflections shimmer softly upon the moving water below. Everywhere within Rivendell, evening rhythms continue quietly. Not hurried, never hurried. The last homely house seems to exist beyond ordinary time. Hours drift differently here, beneath the mountains. Slower, softer. Within one of the long eastern halls, several elves sit beside open windows while delicate music fills the warm air. A harp rests against silver cushions near the fire. One elf plucks calm, gentle notes, while another quietly hums beneath the melody. The song carries no sadness tonight, only peace. Outside the windows, waterfalls continue their endless silver descent through the valley cliffs. Their distant sound blends perfectly with the music, like the whole valley breathing slowly together beneath the stars. Nearby, several travelers gather around a polished wooden table set with late evening tea, steaming cups, honey cakes, slices of warm bread spread with blackberry preserves gathered from the lower gardens. The scent of herbs drifts pleasantly through the room. Chamomile, mint, lavender drying beside the hearth. One dwarf carefully wraps both hands around a cup of tea while sighing deeply. I had forgotten silence could feel this comfortable. An elf nearby smiles softly. Rivendell has that effect. Again, gentle quiet settles around the room. No one feels pressure to speak constantly here. The fire provides enough company. The music fills the empty spaces naturally. One young hobbit eventually wanders away from the table carrying a small plate of honey cakes toward the outer terraces. The cool mountain air greets him immediately. Fresh pine, river mist, the faint scent of rain lingering high among the peaks. The terraces of Rivendell glow beautifully beneath moonlight. Stone pathways curve between gardens filled with pale flowers and silver leaf trees. Tiny lanterns hang beneath archways covered in ivy. Everywhere water moves, streams crossing smooth stones, small fountains singing beside quiet benches. The endless, distant rush of the Bruinen below. The hobbit settles upon a bench overlooking the valley. Far above him, the stars burn brilliantly between the mountain ridges. Without smoke from crowded towns or cities, the heavens over Rivendell seem impossibly clear. Thousands of silver lights scattered across endless darkness. The hobbit eats another honey cake, slowly, while listening to the waterfalls. For the first time in many weeks, his thoughts feel calm. Roads have a way of tightening people inside themselves. Danger, weather, long, uncertain journeys. But Rivendell slowly loosens those knots, one peaceful evening at a time. An older elf passes quietly through the gardens carrying folded blankets toward another guest chamber. His robes drift softly behind him in the moonlight. No sound but water and distant music follows his footsteps. Everything within Rivendell feels graceful in small, unnoticed ways. Even ordinary tasks, especially ordinary tasks. Farther along the terrace, two elves pause beside a flowering tree while speaking softly in their own ancient language. Their voices sound almost musical beneath the night sky. The hobbit cannot understand the words, yet the conversation itself feels peaceful enough, like listening to wind moving gently through leaves. Hours pass slowly through the valley. Within the great house, fires burn warmly behind tall windows glowing gold against the darkness. Travelers drift gradually towards sleep beneath thick blankets and soft music. Several dwarves continue speaking quietly beside one hearth about mountain roads and old trade routes beyond the misty mountains. Nearby, an elf carefully copies faded maps beneath lantern light, while rain taps faintly against the distant upper windows. Elsewhere, books close softly within quiet libraries, lined floor to ceiling, with histories older than most kingdoms still standing. Rivendell carries memory gently, not heavily, not sorrowfully, simply carefully, like lantern light preserved against gathering darkness. The hobbit eventually returns indoors, where warmth greets him once more. The fire has burned lower now, deep orange embers glowing beneath dark logs. Several travelers already sleep peacefully near the hearth, while soft blankets rise and fall with slow breathing. The music from the eastern hall continues drifting faintly through the corridors. A lullaby now, perhaps. Something calm enough to belong to dreams. The hobbit settles into a deep chair beside the fire. A thick wool blanket rests folded nearby. The warmth reaches him almost immediately. His eyelids grow heavy while he listens to the distant waterfalls beyond the walls. The older dwarf across the room snores softly beneath his beard. One of the elves quietly places another small log upon the fire before dimming several lanterns around the hall. The room glows softer now, amber light, deep shadows, rain whispering faintly against distant windows high above the valley. The hobbit closes his eyes, and somewhere beyond the warm halls of Rivendell, the wider world continues turning through darkness and uncertainty. Storms still gather over lonely roads. Wilderness still stretches beyond hidden borders. But here beneath the mountains, peace endures quietly beside the Bruin. Warm, gentle, safe beneath the stars. Let us wander deeper now into the quiet heart of Rivendell, where the night stretches softly beneath lantern light, waterfalls, and ancient elven songs drifting through the valley. Midnight passes gently in the last homely house. Most of the valley now rests beneath silver moonlight and the endless murmur of the Bruin. The upper terraces lie quiet beneath pale trees. Lanterns sway softly along the stone pathways, while cool mountain air drifts through ivy-covered archways. Inside the great halls, only a few fires still burn brightly, warm pools of golden light against polished wood and deep shadow. One long library near the western wing remains awake. Tall shelves rise toward carved ceilings, painted with stars and flowering branches. Ancient books rest quietly beneath lantern light while soft rain whispers faintly against distant windows, high among the cliffs. An elf sits alone near the hearth, turning pages slowly within an enormous weathered volume. Its leather binding has faded smooth with age. The pages smell faintly of cedar, ink, and old paper, preserved carefully across centuries. Rivendell treasures knowledge gently, not greedily. Every map, every song, every fragment of memory carefully tended, like gardens beside the river. Nearby, another traveler sleeps beneath a thick blanket upon a cushioned bench beside the fire. One arm hangs loosely over the edge, while the warmth of the room softens years of road weariness from his face. The peacefulness of Rivendell often surprises weary travelers most during the late hours. Not because it is grand, though it certainly is, but because even silence feels welcoming here. The elf eventually closes the old book and rises quietly. His footsteps barely disturb the rugs spread across the floor. Outside the library windows, moonlight spills silver across the valley gardens. Mist drifts gently above the river far below. The elf pauses there for several moments, simply listening. Waterfalls, night insects among the terraces. Very distant music still lingering somewhere deeper within the house. A slow, peaceful melody carried softly through sleeping halls. Rivendell never grows entirely silent. Music always remains somewhere, like breathing. Farther below, near the lower gardens, beside the riverbanks, several lanterns continue glowing beneath willow trees. An elderly elf walks quietly along the paths, carrying a woven basket filled with herbs gathered before the rain. Even at this hour, the valley feels alive in calm, unnoticed ways. Water flowing, lanterns burning, soft footsteps passing through moonlit gardens. The elf leaves the library and wanders slowly through the quiet corridors. The floors glow warmly beneath low lantern light. Carved pillars shaped like twisting branches rise toward shadowed ceilings overhead. Open balconies reveal glimpses of moonlit waterfalls descending through the cliffs outside. Everywhere, Rivendell blends architecture with nature so gently that walls themselves seem grown rather than built. The air smells pleasantly of cedar wood, old books, herbs drying near fireplaces, and cool rain drifting inward from the mountains. As the elf passes through one hall, he notices several travelers sleeping beside a great hearth. A dwarf rests heavily beneath rolled blankets, while faint snores echo softly through his beard. Nearby, the young hobbit from earlier sleeps curled comfortably within an enormous chair. An open book lies forgotten upon his lap. The elf smiles faintly, then quietly places another log upon the fire. The flames brighten gently. Warmth spreads once more across the sleeping room. Outside, the rain has fully ended now. Clouds drift apart above the valley, revealing a sky overflowing with stars. The mountains surrounding Rivendell stand dark and silent beneath silver light. Their snowy peaks gleam faintly against the heavens. One narrow balcony high along the eastern side of the house overlooks nearly the entire valley. The elf eventually steps there and rests his hands upon the cool stone railing. Below him, Rivendell glows softly among the trees. Lanterns beside bridges, windows glowing amber behind ivy, small fires flickering through distant halls, and beyond it all, the endless song of the Bruinen, moving through stone and moonlight. For countless years, Rivendell has sheltered weary souls, travelers, scholars, wanderers fleeing war or winter roads, a hidden refuge preserved quietly against the changing world. The elf gazes upward. The stars over Rivendell seem especially clear tonight after the rain. Cold silver lights stretching endlessly above the mountains. He remembers standing beneath these same stars centuries earlier. Different seasons, different travelers. Yet, the valley itself remains unchanged in the ways that matter most. Warm lanterns, open halls, the sound of waterfalls through the dark. Below, the river mist drifts softly through the gardens. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls once from the pine forests beyond the cliffs. Then silence returns. A peaceful silence, the kind only ancient, safe places seem able to hold. Eventually, the elf returns indoors. He dims several lanterns along the corridor, while the valley settles deeper into sleep. The fires burn lower now. The music has faded almost entirely. Only the waterfalls continue their endless silver song through the mountains. One by one, the remaining lights of Rivendell soften beneath the late night hush, and beneath the stars above, Imladris, the last homely house, rests quietly beside the river, while every weary traveler sleeps safely through the calm, elven night. Let us remain a little longer within the quiet valley, while Rivendell drifts peacefully through the final hours before dawn, beneath silver waterfalls and fading stars. The night air grows colder along the terraces. Mist rises softly from the Bruine and curls through the lower gardens where lanterns still glow faintly among wet leaves and smooth stone paths. Most of Rivendell now sleeps. The halls stand calm beneath dim firelight. Curtains move gently beside open windows where cool mountain air drifts inward, carrying the scent of pine forests and rain-washed stone. Somewhere high within the house, faint music still lingers. Only a harp now, slow, quiet notes, almost blending completely with the sound of water flowing through the valley. In one guest chamber overlooking the eastern cliffs, the young hobbit stirs beneath heavy blankets. For a moment, he lies still, listening. The waterfalls, the distant harp, the peaceful silence surrounding the valley. He cannot remember the last time he slept this deeply. Roads rarely allow such rest, not real rest. Travelers learn to sleep lightly, half listening for storms, strange noises beyond campfires, or dangers hidden along dark roads. But Rivendell slowly eases those worries away. The valley itself feels protective somehow, ancient, sheltered, safe beneath the mountains. The hobbit rises quietly from bed and wraps a soft wool robe around his shoulders. The chamber glows warmly beneath low lantern light. Carved wooden furniture, polished smooth with age. rests beside shelves filled with old books and carefully folded blankets. Fresh flowers stand within a silver vase near the window, despite the lateness of the season. Even guest rooms in Rivendell feel thoughtfully prepared. Nothing extravagant, simply comforting. He wanders slowly toward the balcony doors and steps outside. Cold air brushes immediately against his face. The stars above the valley still shine brilliantly between the mountain peaks. Far below, the Bruin glimmers silver beneath moonlight, while waterfalls descend endlessly through the cliffs. The sound is soothing beyond words. Like the whole valley singing quietly through the night, the hobbit leans against the balcony railing, wrapped tightly in his robe. Below him, Rivendell glows softly in scattered lantern light. A few windows still burn gold among the trees. An elf crosses one of the lower bridges, carrying a lantern that sways gently beside the river. Somewhere deeper in the valley, another quiet song begins drifting upward through the night air. Voices this time. Soft elven voices blending together in a melody older than most kingdoms still standing. The hobbit listens without understanding words, yet somehow the music still fills him with calm. That is the strange magic of Rivendell. Even things beyond understanding feel welcoming here. Far above, clouds drift slowly past the stars. The mountains surrounding the valley rise enormous and dark against the heavens. Snow gleams faintly upon their distant peaks. The hobbit wonders how many weary travelers have stood upon these same balconies over the centuries. Dwarves escaping winter storms, rangers returning from lonely roads, elves wandering westward beneath fading stars. So many stories carried quietly through these halls. Yet Rivendell never feels burdened by memory, only gentle. A place where old things are cared for kindly rather than mourned. The hobbit eventually notices another figure upon a nearby terrace. An elderly elf wrapped in silver gray robes sits quietly beside a small lantern overlooking the waterfalls. A book rests closed upon his lap. For several moments, neither speaks. The peaceful silence feels too complete to interrupt. At last, the elf glances over with a faint smile. Couldn't sleep? The hobbit shakes his head softly. I think I was too comfortable. The elf laughs quietly. Yes, Rivendell does that too. Again, silence settles gently between them. The waterfalls continue their endless song below. A cool breeze stirs through the trees, and somewhere beyond the valley, hidden roads wind through dark wilderness beneath the same stars. The elf eventually opens his book once more. The pages glow pale beneath lantern light. The hobbit notices delicate illustrations painted between lines of ancient writing. Forests, ships, constellations reflected across dark seas. Stories, the hobbit asks softly. Memories, the elf replies. So, the answer feels perfectly suited to Rivendell, because this valley preserves memories gently, not trapped, not forgotten, simply kept safe. Hours drift onward toward dawn. The stars slowly begin fading above the mountains. The waterfalls grow brighter silver as the eastern sky softens toward pale blue. Birdsong begins quietly among the pine forests surrounding the valley. Morning approaches. The hobbit suddenly realizes he feels wonderfully rested, despite barely sleeping again. Perhaps Rivendell restores more than tired bodies. Perhaps it eases weary hearts too. The elderly elf closes his book and rises slowly from the terrace. Breakfast soon, he says gently. then disappears quietly back into the lantern-lit halls. The hobbit remains upon the balcony a little longer, watching dawn slowly touch the hidden valley, mist drifting above the river, lanterns fading one by one. The first golden light brushing softly across the cliffs of Rivendell. And for a little while longer, the last homely house remains suspended between night and morning beneath the peaceful mountains of Imladris. Dawn arrives slowly in Rivendell. The eastern sky brightens beyond the mountain peaks, while pale golden light slips gently across the hidden valley. Mist drifts above the Bruinen like silver silk. Waterfalls shimmer brighter with every passing moment. And one by one, the lanterns of Rivendell begin fading against the coming day. The last homely house wakes quietly. No loud bells, no hurried footsteps, only calm morning rhythms flowing gently through the halls. Fresh bread baking somewhere deep within the kitchens. Soft voices drifting through open corridors. The distant sound of water echoing endlessly beside stone bridges and garden terraces. The young hobbit eventually leaves the balcony and wanders slowly through the waking house. Morning light spills across polished floors beneath carved wooden ceilings. The air smells wonderfully warm now, fresh herbs, cedarwood, honey, and baking bread. As he passes through one hallway, he notices open windows overlooking the valley gardens below. Elves already move quietly among the flowers and stone paths, carrying baskets, lanterns, and folded linens. Everything in Rivendell begins the day gently. Nothing feels rushed. Even work seems peaceful here. The hobbit follows the scent of breakfast toward one of the lower dining halls, where sunlight already glows warmly across long wooden tables. Several travelers have gathered there wrapped in soft morning conversation. A dwarf carefully butters thick slices of bread beside a steaming bowl of porridge. Two rangers speak quietly near the windows while sipping hot tea. An elf carries fresh fruit from the orchards, arranged neatly upon silver trays. Outside the hall, birds sing brightly among the birch trees beside the river. The entire valley feels renewed after the night rain. Clean, bright, peaceful beneath the mountains. The hobbit settles gratefully beside the hearth while warm tea is poured into a clay cup before him. Steam curls upward, carrying the scent of mint and mountain herbs. He wraps both hands around the cup and sighs softly. The simple comforts of Rivendell feel almost unreal after difficult roads. Soft blankets, warm fires, gentle music drifting through the night. A place where weary people can finally rest without fear. One elderly dwarf nearby eventually glances toward the windows overlooking the valley. I had nearly forgotten places like this still existed, he murmurs. An elf smiles faintly while arranging fresh flowers beside the table. Some places are worth preserving. Again, the room grows peacefully quiet after that. Outside, the Bruinen continues flowing endlessly through the valley. Sunlight dances across its surface between smooth, pale stones. Far above, the cliffs surrounding Rivendell glow gold beneath the early morning sky. The hobbit finishes breakfast slowly. No one hurries him. That too feels unusual. Roads always demand movement. Miles to travel, weather to outrun, darkness to avoid. But Rivendell asks nothing from weary travelers, except that they rest. After breakfast, the hobbit wanders once more through the valley paths. The gardens shine beautifully after the rain. Tiny droplets cling to flower petals and silver leaves. Stone bridges arch gracefully above narrow streams, winding through moss and ferns. Everywhere, sunlight filters softly through pine branches, while birds flutter between terraces overlooking the river. He passes several elves, reading quietly beneath flowering trees. Others tend gardens or carry books between the libraries and upper halls. The peacefulness of Rivendell does not come from idleness. It comes from balance, music, learning, rest, quiet work beneath the mountains. The Hobbit eventually reaches a high terrace overlooking nearly the entire valley. From there, Rivendell appears almost dreamlike beneath the morning light. What now? The war comes to life and sees the sun of a crack and waken. Lanterns still swaying gently beneath carved balconies. The last homely house nestled safely among trees glowing gold and green beneath the clear sky. Far beyond the valley borders, the wider world waits. Dark forests, long roads, storms gathering once more over distant lands. Yet here within Imladris, peace still survives quietly, preserved carefully like a warm lantern against the dark. The hobbit rests his arms upon the terrace railing and closes his eyes briefly. The cool mountain breeze brushes softly against his face. Water sings endlessly below. Somewhere nearby, faint harp music begins once more beneath the morning sunlight. A calm, gentle melody drifting through the valley. And for one final moment, everything feels perfectly still. The waterfalls, the lanterns, the warm halls hidden beneath the mountains. A quiet evening in Rivendell, slowly becoming morning. The kind of peaceful memory travelers carry with them long after leaving, because places like Rivendell do not simply offer shelter. They remind weary souls what peace feels like. And perhaps that is why the last homely house endures through the long ages of Middle-earth. Not through power, but through kindness, through warmth, through soft music beside rivers beneath the stars. The sun climbs slowly higher above the misty mountains. Morning light fills the hidden valley completely now. The waterfalls shimmer. The gardens glow. The last homely house breathes softly beside the Bruin. And somewhere within its warm, peaceful halls, weary travelers continue resting beneath carved ceilings, while Rivendell sings quietly around them.